Okay, let's call this meeting to order. We don't know where Tracy's at.
She's on her way, I bet.
She's probably on her way. She's probably at the co-op. All right, so open forum. Open it up. Does anybody want to have anything they want to say? Abraham Lincoln? No? No? Okay, with that said, I guess, yeah, close the open forum then, move right along. And moving to the consent agenda. You'll notice on the consent agenda we have 5 items which are part of your packet. Hope you had a chance to look that over. We've got a raffle for the Deer Hunters Association, and we have the street plow replacement, which there are 2 bids for the plow that they want to buy, which is, here she comes, which is a 10-foot V plow DXT. Allegedly ours is getting banged up pretty good, and it's good for us to have a plow that works because we use it a lot. So that's the consent agenda. Is there anything that
Are we adding the North House Folk School permit to that?
we could? So we do have this. This is a 1 to 4 day temporary on-sale liquor license for their Unplugged Festival. We could add that to the consent agenda if you would so like. Is that something we should do? I think
Yes.
we should.
I'd make motion to approve the consent agenda with that addition.
With the
North House
addition of
Folk
the-
School permit for temporary liquor license.
All right.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion regarding? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Moving right along, board openings. So, we have 2 board openings. We have a park board opening, we have an EDA board opening. We have 1 letter from an applicant for the EDA, this is Ms. Bev Green, and we don't have any applicants for the park board yet.
Do you need another application from Barb?
No, I just need to hear from her.
Okay. And she hasn't heard from us, was the last.
Okay,
So,
I'll make sure she does.
yeah.
And
I think she's
That's
still
park
interested.
board.
Barb
Barb Backlund.
Backlund?
Yep.
Okay.
She's still interested, is my understanding. So.
Yes, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Cool. So we need to figure out if are we going to wait to see if we get more EDA applications. We have 1 applicant.
We've been posting this for,
Are we beyond the posting period?
well, it's been
Well,
over,
we've posted it 3 or 4
and we've
times.
talked about it
Yeah.
for a couple months.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then I would entertain a motion to fill one of these board openings with an applicant.
I
Unless
moved.
there's some other process we'd like to follow.
I moved for Bev to be on the E EDA.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the application for Bev Green for EDA for the vacant spot on the EDA.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Got any further discussion about that?
Only that I like this new application form. It's much better in terms of getting information.
I would agree. Anything else? Hearing nothing? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Moving right along to the Public Works Facility update. That's what
Sorry,
I'm-
anything else? So, I'm sorry, Mike, how should we go about the park board? It'd be really nice to fill that.
We'll just make sure that we get in touch with her before next meeting.
Okay.
And she says, well, yes, I'd love to be on the board.
And then we'll approve it next meeting.
Okay. I can't make a motion for that now.
No, because she hasn't actually.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why you couldn't if you're quite sure she's still interested.
Yep. I talked to her, and then Kate Tevenier also talked to her.
Yeah.
So,
What's the issue? I mean, why?
well, there.
It's the
There-
new application versus old application?
No. Just, you don't want to appoint somebody who hasn't said recently that they want to be on the board. So
Right.
if he's got information, there's no reason you can't rely on
And
that.
why don't we have an application?
Because she hasn't submitted it
There we
recently.
go.
A
That's all I was
second
wondering.
one.
Recently.
But
We-
a second one.
Yeah, because she submitted when we appointed Jennifer Stoltz to the park board.
Oh,
There was
Okay.
2
At the beginning of
applicants,
the year.
and we had 1 opening.
gotcha.
And then I asked her if she was still interested, and she said yes. And then Kate Tavenier said, "So, are you on board?" And she said, "Well, I haven't heard anything from the city."
Gotcha.
So I would make a motion to appoint Barb Backlund to the park board as well.
Okay. Motion?
I would second that.
Motion and a second. The only question I have about that is that should we make the motion pending her acceptance of it, or should
Well, I
we
guess
just?
they kind of all are, aren't they?
I suppose, yeah, good point.
Which
That's
maybe
kind
we,
of goes
maybe we
without
should
saying.
make all the
Okay, so we have another motion on the floor to fill the vacant park board seat. Any further discussion regarding that?
It feels really good to fill vacant seats.
It feels very fulfilling.
Yeah.
R.
Get it?
All right.
That's okay.
Boo.
Boo, and we are live. So anyway, motion and a second. Any further discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Great. We took care of those board openings. Well done. So now we will move along to the Public Works Facility update, which is where I hand it over to Mike.
Wonderful. This won't take 15 minutes, unfortunately. I emailed you a
That's not
draft, and it was the hospital's request. And if you had a chance to dig into it at all, you realize how ridiculously complicated it is. And I did receive about 5 other examples from Mike Fisher at LHB, which I decided not to forward to you for your review because it would have been a lot of time.
Thank you.
And honestly, you know, I don't think there's any point in having you all look at those. I think the next step is that we have to develop a draft for you to hopefully just approve. I'm working with Mike right now to figure out the best way to do that. They don't seem to just have one that they use, which would have been great. LHB.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but Mike and I will get a draft put together somehow, some way. As you can see, it's kind of complicated.
You know, do you think that we're still on a timeline to start construction this fall? I mean, originally you had talked about that. And
I think there's lots of things we can still do. You know, even the last time we heard from Mike, and especially the feedback we got from Kraus Anderson was, and I think you all know, the availability of contractors might be a difficult thing. The concept of splitting off the utility installations. If we're going to do this construction manager, we won't want to split that off. We want that to be part of the whole package. But it's still something that could get a start on. It's something that we've got the engineers working on design for right now. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. We still have a few things in the way of construction as well that
That's
we're
good.
hoping to get rid of, and we can talk about that a little bit later.
We will be talking about that.
So that's
later.
our goal is to get you hopefully something less than a 25-page request for proposals at your next meeting that we can send off. You know, what does that schedule look like? I would expect it's going to take another 2 months to get somebody on board. So, and then will they have any crews available to start this year? It's hard to say.
So it
So
might
So it
not
seems
be-
like less and less likely that we will see
Yeah.
any
Yeah,
any
it's
significant progress this.
Well, you certainly wouldn't see a building, for instance.
Yeah.
That's
Site
not going to
prep.
be this year. Yeah. That's the update.
So that's the update. Well, that was a pretty short update. Yeah.
Can I throw out one other thing? This is something that the Public Utilities Commission had discussed recently. This was a recommendation that the Public Utilities Commission makes to the council is that as part of the planning for the building, that that the council consider photothermal as an option for heating the building.
The solar wall kind of thing.
Solar thermal, yes.
Yeah.
And that we also consider and look at the feasibility of photovoltaic, solar photovoltaic panels also, which could be, a promising option for that site also.
Mhm.
And could be either rooftop or standalone. PUC has been doing a fair amount of work with looking at solar options and thinks that site could have some potential, and we should keep our minds open to that as we're considering our plans.
Did people see that C-CLEP forward of that information? It was a few weeks ago. I don't remember if it got sent around to the council or not.
I don't recall that it got to the council.
It was sent. I just sent it to the architects. right
Okay.
then. So, keep this in mind and tell us what you think. And with photovoltaic, that's different. There's not anything we need to do
No.
to the building
Right.
to make that work. It doesn't even have to be on the building, for instance. It could be anywhere on the site. The electrical service it's not difficult to make sure that can accommodate it. Solar thermal, that's different. It might require significant changes to the design as we've seen it in order for that to be feasible. So that's going to take a little bit longer to evaluate, but we'll make sure that you get some evaluation of it.
Yeah, and that information and concept has been sent across to the architect. So the architect knows we want to at least have a summary of what that would look like, or what that would potentially entail. So I think the PUC and the council are on pretty much the same page for that. It's just that we just need to make sure that the architect puts it together and gives us an idea about it.
I think for the solar thermal, all that's really required is the in-floor heat, which we were kind of leaning towards anyways, as far as the building design.
No, it's a different kind of.
They're talking about
Technology.
turning pretty much the south-facing wall into a solar collector.
It's not hydronic. It's air.
Oh, okay.
So it's a passive solar air heating
Gotcha.
system.
Okay. Because they do have the hydronic as well.
Yeah.
But,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
Is that 5 years
That's-
ago technology or?
I don't know.
Oh,
This
okay.
seems like a specific technology that somebody was pushing that got through to C-Club, and they said, well, we should take a look at it.
The air one. Okay.
It seems like it's called Solar Wall is what it's called. It's a company based here in the United States that I think they're based in the Midwest, aren't they? I think they are. But anyway, they've tried it on a lot of really big warehouses, like big open spaces, kind of like what we'll have, and it allegedly works really well. So that's really why it gained traction, was that we've seen these big spaces like Walmart distribution centers and things like that are just hundreds of thousands of square feet that have these on one wall, and they cut their heating expenses by like half to 3/4 or something. It seems pretty ridiculously good. So we want to just make sure we take a look at it, because if we can run our PUC garage for practically nothing, it'll speed up the rate at which we pay it off. So that just seems to make sense. Okay. All right. So hopefully we'll have more information on that in the future. The next thing we have on the agenda is talking about budget priorities, and I was actually really pleased to see the list that was put in the packet, that kind of laid out the different areas of the budget and the different projects that have been identified. If just like in speech or in conversation here at council meetings, down to actual planning meetings, it was really helpful to take a look at what we have actually talked about spending money on, and seeing how many of those are actually planned and how many of them are not. So, with that said, we need to figure out what we're going to do, like what our priorities are going to be for 2017. If you look at the list that we have, the list that was given for 2016, the green and yellow items are pretty significant items, and to figure out if we're going to jump into any of the other stuff, I guess. Unless you have a different direction you want to go with that conversation.
Well, I think maybe you just want to first of all decide how far you want to get tonight. I don't think there's any need to make decisions that are binding on your 2017 budget tonight. This was really more of just a presentation of information that you've already discussed, and just maybe a placeholder or a reminder about where the conversations have gone and what's on the list, and other things that you've talked about, but maybe we haven't had a chance to fit into a budget cycle yet.
Can I make a motion to not use yellow on white anymore?
It's only 3 times.
It shows up
Blue is,
real well on here, like you can't read it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, the copy didn't come through at all, huh?
It looks great on the.
Oh, it looks
on
yellow,
the
there's
screen.
some yellow
Yeah, online it's okay.
I'll go online.
No, I
I'm just
get your
teasing.
point, though.
I'm just teasing.
You don't do, no, you're not.
Could you guess what
Shadow
they
it.
said?
So there's no second with that?
No.
Motion dies for lack of a second. That's not going to go in the official minutes. Okay. So that's a good point. So we have to figure out how far we want to go with this. The final page that you're given in that illustration is the page that has the 5-year projection of what we're going to be spending. And I thought that was also really helpful to see that in the next, from 2016 to 2020, we have, oh, and you included the Fifth Avenue and City Hall, which are things that we know have to happen relatively soon. We got over $10 million worth of projects. So we have to figure out how we're going to put that through and still keep our debt payments at a reasonable level. Because where we're talking about right now, annual payment on new debt, we're looking at, $293,000, almost $300,000 for some of that beyond general obligations. So total expense of $400,000 or so for debt payments per year. Am I reading
So-
that right?
Well, hold on a sec. Look at the last two items, Jay. That's my.
Which ones?
Flip. Can't. They're not on there, but they're on your total.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, it's not 10 yet, because they're not budgeted projects. They're not on our list of priorities.
Are you talking about the
yet.
Fifth Avenue reconstruction and the
Yeah,
liquor
and the
store?
liquor store. They're in your totals, but they're not something we've committed to yet. We don't, I mean,
Well, Fifth Avenue reconstruction will have to participate in. It's a county road.
That happens
When
the
they
county-
do it, we'll have to fix our utilities underneath it. It'll be
well,
a
then-
utility
Then we
project.
should put that as a,
It's
Yeah, I
just,
mean-
it is on the list. It's not scheduled in the sense that we don't know when they intend to do it.
well, budgeted scheduled.
Yep. I had a conversation with Jeff Cadwell today, and we were talking about that in light of the information that came from our recent inspection of the sewer lines. There's serious problems with that infrastructure that need to be addressed probably sooner than later before it becomes an emergency or crisis situation, and we're patching and repairing, and we don't have a street project, and we're doing this on our own and doing it separately from that. Conversation with Jeff was that we should specifically approach the county with a request and work to get this put onto their schedule for construction. And with their discussions of the 0.5% sales tax, there would be an ability to do this project. He said they really don't have a timeline for any of their projects until they do engineering on them. And they've been reluctant to do engineering because they've just haven't had the staff or the resources to do projects lately. So he seemed to think it was likely that we could get this moved up to maybe 2019. So maybe it's 2 years, 3 years out. But to get it on a schedule where we recognize that it's going to be done, because we need to do something about the utility infrastructure sooner than later.
So that's one that we should take a look at, upgrading that on the list to a different color.
Well, you don't need to. One thing that's important to note about it is it's entirely a utility project. Since the street work
Right.
is county, there won't be any property taxes involved in that project. Only utility revenues. So it's really something the Utilities Commission can handle. They've talked about it. Right now, Tom and I are preparing a little better information to present to the county with some of our recent investigations of those sewer lines there, that we'll be asking them to please prioritize it. And in the meantime, we did confirm that it is one of the projects that's on their transportation sales tax list, so it will be eligible for that, which is really
Great.
the only thing we wanted to make sure of right now. Otherwise, you know, in terms of the conversation about the budget, the council's, one of the council's goals anyway of every year putting the budget together is to figure out what the property tax levy is going to be. And this project's really not going to affect that.
Okay. Well, so then we have no problem in saying that we can budget for it because it's not going to affect it.
Well, it's not just a matter of-
Utilities Commission is in a different position.
Right.
Well, right, and I don't think it's just a matter of budgeting for it, but it's working with the county to make sure we can coordinate and get
And get
this
the project
on their
done,
schedule
yeah.
and do it in a fashion that meets their, you know, staffing needs and resource availability.
Right.
So,
Would it be possible to get, I mean, it sounds like when you had the guys take videos of the pipes, you learned a lot.
well, I haven't seen them. Tom described them, and what his description was that they're
Could we,
in bad shape, and, you know,
could we see a report of where things are in bad shape sometime?
we've asked him for those photos, and he still hasn't.
Yeah, and what we got from them is it's going to take some work to translate that into something that's useful for someone to look at.
Okay.
That we have a stack of papers that are from this point to this point. The camera found this list of things, and so that's not particularly easy to digest. You know, Tom will be preparing a map, and again, you don't really need. At this level of decision making, you don't really need to know like what are all the things they found in the pipes. Even just a simple color coded, it's in poor condition here, fair condition here, good condition
I
here.
guess that's
is
more what
probably
I was,
enough.
that's more what I was
So
asking for.
that's what we've had that done. It hasn't been updated in about 5 years, so it's going to be updated again, and then we can look at that as a part of these conversations.
Great.
I think though what you'll find is that a lot of the stuff that's in poor condition is already on this 5-year list. So like, for instance, when we say First Street reconstruction, that's not 100% scoped out yet. It kind of means First Street from the library to the end of First Street, plus all the blocks that are above First Street between First and Second, plus potentially all the blocks below First Street between the highway and First Street. And I guess, you know, some combination of those that we'll decide as we get a little closer to the project based on condition assessments, which ones are going to get included. Now, this is pretty simplified look at things, obviously.
Mhm.
The next tab in this spreadsheet is a 20-year look that says every year, what are we spending our capital money on? Like, which projects are we making debt payments on? Which projects are we making cash contributions towards? And then every year, how much are we budgeting to contribute? That's under construction. That's a lot more useful for, I think, your purposes, because it's nice to not just think about, okay, what's the levy going to be in 2017,
Right.
but given our 5-year or even 20-year thought about what our projects are going to be, are we aiming for the right place so that we can afford those next big projects as well?
Well, I think
And it also helps to realize that even though this is $10 million in the next 5 years, you do have a lot of resources. We have prepared our budgets to absorb some of these projects, and it's not going to necessarily take drastic movement to fit it all in. Having said that, this is 6 things, and there's a lot more than that
On the list.
on the list.
Yeah.
Well, a couple things. One for me is that the liquor store seems to fit into this equation because it's an enterprise that generates a significant amount of revenue to the city's annual budget. And if we expand the liquor store and expand sales, you know, that money can go directly into debt service and other projects too. And you know, as an enterprise, I think that should become a priority for us to figure out how we're going to move that project along. Because without that, you know, I mean, we've got a project out there that has the potential to pay for itself and add additional revenue to other programs that we think are important.
I would completely agree with that.
I think it also would be an indirect, I mean, it's not its main intent, but it would indirectly potentially help other profitable or commercial enterprises here in the community to have a great new liquor store could really add a lot to potential other business development.
Bathrooms.
Well, you know, if you're gonna
Could work
build a
both
liquor
ways.
store building in a downtown location, couldn't you just put the bathrooms on that liquor store building? I mean,
Absolutely.
Well, and remember, I mean, before we get down the weeds again,
Yeah.
we have the big conversation is, are we going to keep our land and build our own building? Are we going to let someone else come in and build it and lease the space? I mean, we kind of have to, not that we can't throw a bathroom in there as part of whatever agreement we strike, but it seems like we still have to make the bigger decision. What are we going to do with this whole block?
But
It's
I-
part of the block, and how are we going to approach it, you know, going forward?
But I also feel
think
like
it's a top priority.
I feel like we run into trouble when we start thinking about that versus thinking about the liquor store as an enterprise for the city, because we've already identified the liquor store as an enterprise that we want to have located in downtown, that we know that we should probably keep it in this vicinity. So then I find
I disagree with that, but
yeah.
I'm still not sure what you were saying, though.
Well, I'm saying that it makes
Sorry.
sense. It makes sense for us if we believe that there's value in rebuilding the liquor store, that it's actually going to make the city more money to rebuild the liquor store and perhaps throw public restrooms into it or something
Mhm.
like that over here or wherever
Mhm.
on this block, then we shouldn't be handicapped by what are we doing with the rest of the block. Like we should.
Why is that handy?
Because what I interpreted what you just said, and I might have interpreted it wrong, was that we shouldn't do anything with the liquor store until we figure out what we're doing with the rest of the block.
Oh,
Is that what you were saying? or
no, I just meant we have to decide if we are going to be building owners or building tenants.
Okay.
That's all I meant. You know, this whole space, you know, what do we do? Because we talked about, do we just keep a small share? Not that we have to talk about it right this second again, but were we going to keep a small portion and build a building, you know, or were we going to lease, whatever. But we have to kind of think about that, and then, yeah, maybe some bathrooms or whatever else.
if
But-
it's downtown, putting bathrooms on it just seems
Yeah.
to make a lot of sense, that you're building a building
Mhm.
and in a location where the bathrooms are needed.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should be the owner if you want to have the public restrooms in it. That seems like a tougher fit for a tenant relationship.
I don't think I'd make that judgment call.
If you put it
No,
into, if you
I
put it
wouldn't.
into just the development agreement with,
Yeah.
in purchase or the sale of this property, that whatever happens to the development, that there's, you know, that, I'm assuming somebody's gonna develop it, it would be a development like a commercial development. I mean, you know, 'cause it's prime commercial space. You know,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna build a single-family home down here, which would be awkward to have public restrooms then attached to it. But, you know, if it was a commercial development, then it seems like that's I think a
Not
pretty
at
typical
$2
ask,
a visit, it might not be.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can do whatever you want, as long as you get a great attorney to get your contract signed up that you protect yourself and whatever your agreement is, you can do that. I don't know, I'm just always nervous when the city wants to own a building because repairs, maintenance, that we get really stuck a lot of times in having the money to keep it up properly. And I'd rather, maybe that's not where we want to put time and energy, and you lease a building. But I'm sorry, I'm dragging us down in the weeds of this. I don't know how much we
Well,
want to do this evening.
what I was going to say to kind of bring it back up out of the weeds a little bit is that last week we had pretty extensive conversations about public restrooms and about the need for
Mhm.
public restrooms, and this conversation about the liquor store, like rebuilding the liquor store and including public restrooms in that, I think fits decently well with that conversation. So if we continue this conversation along these lines, we're probably going to end up with those two items on the or the council citywide list, the public restrooms and the liquor store, getting upgraded in some way to a more exploratory place. You know, like what is the yellow? Scheduled, not budgeted.
Well, think about it.
What color?
The color, it's just talking about where it fits into your budget, because that's where we started this conversation from, is we're working on the budget. When it's a list of priorities, just because it hasn't been budgeted or scheduled doesn't mean you didn't identify it as a top priority, or that we won't be working on it at some planning level to try and get it ready to be scheduled or budgeted. So, and you don't feel like you have to upgrade it before we start working on it. That's not my intention.
Okay, now
can't
I'm
upgrade it
feeling a little
because we haven't
circular
done
here,
it.
Mike.
Yeah, well,
I get what you're saying, but.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll stop it then.
Well, some of it, I'm not certain how much it affects our budget, you know, like the DNR boat launch, you know, how much do we get involved with the budgeting, on the budgeting side? That's really gonna be a state project that is gonna be, for the most part, state money. We may have some incidental expenses with that, but, is it a big expense on our side? Are you anticipating significant expenses to?
That certainly hasn't been our position on it, but
That's
at
what
this
my
point,
impression.
we don't
yeah.
really know because the state hasn't budgeted or scheduled it.
And
Well, so then if we're at this level, at the budgeting level, then why don't we just say we're gonna budget some money to, to build up or to make up some plans for a liquor store redo and that includes public restrooms or something like that.
I mean, I could agree to that when we start to get into budget discussions, to set aside money to actually put this in the process.
So I'd like to look at the bathrooms as their own project and the liquor store. It may end up that they end up in the same building,
Mhm.
but I don't,
Well,
I know
they're
I'm
gonna
getting
have
it.
to be two different projects because
right, so I
Because the
just mean how
solution
to
for
talk
the-
about it.
the solution for the restroom situation isn't going to be just one set of bathrooms.
Right,
I mean, like, unless we can figure out how to make that work. Like,
But, yeah.
segways that people can ride all the way to the bathrooms and back. I'm sorry.
no, that's been one of our things, is how do you get there?
Right,
So
um,
what are we really doing then this evening here? Are we
So-
just
We're reminding ourselves
of,
what's on the list.
okay,
Some suggestions for what we're going to be doing for the rest of the year on this budget. You have about a month where we are going to be inviting the department heads to come in and report to you on their budget, which is really more of an opportunity just to say hi, to remind yourself what's included in each of their operations and what part of the budget it takes. There are none of them that are actually going to be talking about significant changes in operations, so the budgets are very similar at a line item level. By September, your first meeting in September, you'll have to set the preliminary levy. This is the anticipated maximum levy you cannot exceed unless there's some sort of emergency situation. So oftentimes it'll be a little bit higher than you're hoping it ends up at, just to make sure. And then once that is done, we have the rest of September, October, November, December to fine-tune any areas that we've identified, to wait for new information to develop, to talk about some of these bigger policy questions and how they fit into things before you set your final levy in December. The only thing you really need to do tonight is discuss scheduling of when you'd like the department heads to come sit down and review their budgets with you. We've done that different ways. I'd say, between 2 and 4 hours is what it's going to take. We have scheduled during the day work sessions where they've come in and we've done maybe 2 hours one time and then an hour before a meeting another time. We've had them all come in before or during regular council meetings, so it's kind of up to you on how you want to do that. The regular council meetings you have before you need to have this done, August 31st is really the only good option there to give us a chance to respond to anything that comes up in those conversations prior to you having to set a preliminary levy. So I'd say anytime in the next 2.5 weeks that you'd like to, we will arrange for their visits.
I'm gonna be gone most of next week, so don't do a meeting then. But the week of the 22nd, I could be here. I could do just about anything. And I would recommend that we do a couple of different sessions, because if we try to just hammer them all out at once, that's not gonna, we could do it like that, but I don't know if that's gonna be the most effective way to do it. Thoughts? You guys wanna just hammer it out at once, or do you wanna do a couple of sessions?
I'd much rather have one day where I have to not do, I have to be disrupted instead of multiple days where I have to be disrupted.
Well, what I was thinking is that we could do one midday work session where we have most of them, and then just have like one of them at the next meeting or something, before the next meeting or something like that. Or we could just do them all at once. We can buckle down and get a party sub, we'd be fine. So,
That's just me. I mean, like, midday even is not ideal, you know?
I know.
If you're gonna be gone that week of the 15th, you know, the following week, for me, Thursday and Friday are the only days I would be available.
I'll be just the opposite on that. I was
Other-
hoping you were saying you were
Yeah.
gone. I could say me too.
Otherwise, you know, we could do it before the council meeting.
I was gonna say, let's just make.
Well, how about the 30th, that Tuesday? Does that work for people?
30th would work for me.
That's fine.
And then we'll have like a 5:30 before the council meeting set aside if we need it.
Sure. What do you think, Jay?
I have to talk with Rose.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But potentially the 30th maybe, so I'll just pop something in now. Like in the afternoon, you think?
Yeah, like
On
I would say.
Anton? Or do you want
Well,
evening?
That's fine. Afternoon. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, as long as it's, I guess to me, it makes, I'd rather, if we're gonna do it, I guess I'd like to just have the time. So if we're gonna say whatever, whether it's noon or 2 or whatever, like, let's just dedicate whatever time we think we need to, if it's 2 or 3 hours, let's do it, versus like doing several like lunchtime things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, basically, if it's afternoon, anytime, it's hard to go back and do anything else for me, so.
So you'd prefer to keep on going?
Keep on going, that's me.
Okay, we'll set that time up. We'll schedule with the department heads for the afternoon, and then we'll get back to you with more information on what that schedule looks like. And Jay, you can report back to me if that's going to work or
I
not, or what you got.
shall report back.
Awesome.
Are we also thinking we should block off that time before the meeting then on Wednesday, get an hour or two, or no? Just tentatively?
Tentatively would be,
I
yeah.
think it's not a bad
Okay.
idea.
All right, will do.
You know, if we decide that we've had enough on the 30th, we can save all the stuff that doesn't have department heads for the 31st, and then we can start it, or we can have it at the regular meeting if there's not a lot of other stuff or whatever we need to do.
Okay. Super duper. Does that sound good?
So do we need to have any special meetings to talk about, to get us back about what I first asked you, like this list tonight, to talk about it outside of a regular meeting then? Are we gonna have some special meetings around that, or do that later?
We will do that later.
Okay. I don't-
We can decide later whether that needs to be a part of the budget discussion or whether it just needs to be its own conversation.
Sure. Okay.
You know, may I just have one thought on the park board stuff? You know, a lot of things on their list, and none of them at this point are scheduled, budgeted, or anything. And so, it seems to me with the ranking that the park got from the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission, and the ability to pursue funding, legacy funding through that program, and the need only to finish up the master plan, it would seem to me it'd be prudent to make that a priority for the park to complete the master plan, to be putting themselves in a position to possibly submit applications for funding for some of these projects that, you know,
Could
Could-
you lump them into nice bite-sized projects, you know, like
well, I
4
think
or
if you had,
5 of these things?
yeah, I
that
think
are-
if you had a master plan, I think that would end up happening. You'd
Yeah.
prioritize and
I think that's the point, right?
phase different parts of the development. And
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Dave and I have talked about that. That's not a budgetary issue. We most likely will do that internally with staff. Or, you know, if we do need assistance, it'll be in small chunks that we can absorb in the existing operating budget. That's not something the park board has talked about during their capital planning, because it didn't exist the last time they did their capital plan.
Right.
So, but one of the components that we're missing in our master plan is a capital improvement plan. So that's something that, where there's this long list, and the park board's done a lot of good work in kind of identifying their capital needs. We'll be taking that to the next level this winter and turning it into a scheduled, if you want to call it that, capital improvement plan. that's gonna identify what we need so that we can use that not only to get designation, but also to prepare an ask at some point.
Yeah, because the next step in the process is to complete the master plan to comply with the commission's requirements, you know, and once that's done, then the project gets scored, and if it becomes designated as a regional facility, the next funding cycle is next fall. So,
Yeah.
which would really put any funding out to, I think, 2019 still. So
Yeah.
there's a long lead on this program.
So the things that are on this list, a lot of them are gonna be done by the time we get to 2019, because they're smaller items that the park board's just kind of said, we're gonna pick away at these things every year. We do have a fairly robust annual capital budget for the park already,
Yeah.
but there's also a couple of big ticket items on there that we haven't figured out how to swallow that'll be
Yeah.
perfect for.
Well, moving the rec hall and ball field to the ball field location, the
Yeah.
ball field
Yeah.
issue, the bathhouses, all pretty significant projects
Yeah.
But
just by
set up real
themselves.
nice.
So I think the sooner we can put ourselves in a position to being able to utilize that program.
Yeah, and there's no reason we can't do it for the next cycle. This winter, we get our plan up to snuff, it's submitted, we get the designation, and then we can apply.
Boom.
Boom.
Yeah,
Dave's
there's
not
nothing to it.
Yeah, Dave, get on that.
Dave Thurston
Cool.
does.
That's the other Dave. So is there any other further discussion we need to have about that? I'm looking forward to the budget conversation. I think it should be very interesting. Needless to say.
Well, I think we've seen around the community this year some real enthusiasm and reinvigorament. I mean, a lot of downtown space has been doing a lot of their own improvements. We've got a lot of new businesses. We've got a lot of people interested in our community. These kind of cycles come and go, and I don't think we can waste this time. I think we really need to jump on the bandwagon. We have 2 operations. We're lucky than most communities that make good money, and we could really be assets to our community, but we can't sit on it. We can't drag it out because these things don't last forever again.
Pretty good
And
time
then-
to borrow money too.
Yeah.
Yes, interest rates, the
Everything's
whole
as
deal.
cheap as it possibly can.
A
be
lot of
for us.
interest contractors might, they think we're a cool small town. I mean, we have a lot of potential, but if you just sit and ride on it, that time will pass.
I totally agree. I like getting stuff done. Cool. It's good. It's a good little segue.
Is this real? Are we already to this point?
Yeah, it's true. We are in almost fall. Never mind. I didn't say that.
No,
out-
end of the
I didn't say
meeting.
that out loud.
The end of the meeting.
Oh no,
Yes.
we've got so much
I
other
know.
stuff.
It
We've
is
got
real.
so much
Don't
other
listen to
stuff.
him. very
We
real.
actually have one piece that we need to talk about for other items. We got an offer to purchase
Oh, yeah.
a cabin from the Tom Tabota sites for $100. So
Whoa.
that would be something that we need a motion to accept that offer for the sale of said cabin, and
So moved.
super
I'll second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How soon are they getting it out of there?
It's a good question. We have to schedule it. Or have to see what their
Certainly
schedule
soon
is.
enough for our purposes. They've located a mover. He'll be coming up to look at the site.
Oh, they
pretty
are
soon.
on top of it.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
nice. Very
Yes.
Has there been no other offers on any other buildings?
nice. Or anything else?
None that have officially arrived. There's been other discussions about things that I think may come to fruition yet. So-
On other buildings up there?
Mhm.
Okay.
Is it possible we could give them a 2-for-1 on that?
Yeah, exactly.
It is not.
Okay.
Should offer. No, okay. All right, so we've got a motion and a second for the sale of one of the cabins to Ms. Sue Hakes for $100. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Hopefully that'll inspire some other people to buy up some other cabins. Do you have anything else? Or can we just go to council updates?
I think we already did all this other stuff I handed out, didn't
I think we did too.
Yeah.
We were pretty darn effective tonight.
This is
this
just
is-
everybody's for your information. I think you'll get an email on this too. This EDA housing fund meeting stuff. So you don't have to talk about that.
Is this really on September 19th? Or is it on September?
Tentatively.
9-2 or 10-3?
9 to 2 or 10 to 3.
Oh, 9-2-2 or 10-3.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So with that said, let's move on to council updates. Mr. Mills, what do you got for us?
Just the park board is a real short meeting. Everyone's really busy. I believe the paving is, we're talking about when that was going to happen, and it looks like after Labor Day, but beyond that, schedule is not set.
And that's because of the busyness of the park.
Yeah, even though it's still going to be fairly busy after Labor Day, it'll just be better than, say, last weekend.
Okay. Anything else?
It's bustling. It's doing great, the park. Everything's up.
Great.
So, fuel sales as well. I don't know
I
if you
saw that. It was
some
like up
big-
by 70%. That's crazy.
some big boats.
Nice.
That's all.
Awesome. Mr. Moody.
We had an EDA meeting last night, and we signed the letter that we had all passed along with the affordable workforce housing, the support letter, I guess, and so that was kind of cool because we had the city, the county, and the EDA all signed on one piece of paper that we agreed to something. So, with support, so that's good. And let's see, next week, the director, let's see, from IRRB,
I think deputy director.
deputy director,
Development director. I guess is
development
the-
director, that's what
Who's
it
it?
is.
Is that Chris?
Steve Peterson? Yeah. Steve Peterson from the IRRB is going to come up, and we'll be looking at both the Lutzen project housing and then the one in town, and then also talking about, I think Tim actually is going to be there to talk to him about impacts of biking and
Mountain
Mountain
biking in
biking.
general.
and so that's cool that they're paying attention, and excited to see what we've been up to. And what else? No other lots have sold, but construction has started on 2 places up in the business park, so that's good.
It's cool.
And the most recent one I don't think is closed yet, but there's like at least 2 other people interested, I guess.
Oh,
So
great.
who knows? Maybe we'll have to do another business park. Right, Mike?
Yeah,
Yeah.
could happen.
I hope not.
Buy high, sell low.
Tim?
I've got a long list here, so I'm gonna get in front of Jay. I had a
That's why
meeting.
I'm at the end of the line now.
I know, this is good, so you would take it all. Okay, I had a meeting today with David Demmer and talked about a couple different things. The county is in the process of working out a purchase of a 80-acre parcel of land up adjacent to the Sawtooth Bluffs area. It's a private parcel that the owner is basically landlocked, doesn't have any means to get access, and the county is working on a legacy program application, heritage program application to acquire that land which adjoins the county land and would be made part of that Sawtooth Bluffs area. The county has submitted a letter of support with regard to the acquisition, and David had asked me if the city would consider also providing a letter of support to the acquisition. To me, it makes a lot of sense. If we are looking at some point down the line of development of the Sawtooth Bluffs area as a park, and this parcel is part of that project. It follows really right along the ridge line and would be an ideal parcel to be included within the system up there.
I have no problem with doing that. The only thing that I would have is, we had this conversation right after most of us got elected, saying like, is it really, what is the place for the city to be weighing in on county projects and things like that? This, I think, since we have an interest in it, because we're working with the county potentially on this Sawtooth Bluffs project, I think that it would be appropriate, but that was the first thing that popped into my head when you brought it up. So, I mean, I would have no problem doing it. I think it's a good idea.
And I don't know what the timeline of the county is, if it's something we want to give some thought to, or if it's something that, you know, everybody feels comfortable enough to move ahead, or, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, I would make a motion that we approve a letter of support to the county's request for funding to acquire that property and make it part of the Sawtooth Plus.
I mean, this letter of support is really just to the county.
It's a letter of support that the county would take and
Would
submit with their
use.
application to the state.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
That just, is that portion in city limits?
No.
It is not,
Okay.
no, I asked
But
the
it is
question too.
adjoined, okay.
Yep,
Good,
and it directly adjoins the county property, not the city properties.
okay.
Okay.
So what
So-
would the total acreage be if that was purchased? for
I think it
that?
was 600 and
I thought 680 stuck in my head, or 640.
640.
It was 640, so it'd be
It's
720.
80 additional acres to whatever
It'd be
was
720
there.
then.
Wow,
So,
That's awesome.
it's a big park, or it would be a big park.
yeah,
And
so.
and it's right adjacent to federal land, which then is adjacent to the fen. You can kind of see the fen through here.
Sure.
It's
So,
the start of it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Well, and also in the conversation I had with David, you know, a while back, Anton had brought up this issue about development in the western part of the city and our abundance of wetlands that we have up there, and what it might take to try to affect those wetlands to make that area more developable. You know, I mean, David's first reaction was, well, you know, you could probably do that. You know, the question is, how much money do you want to spend? How much
Right.
do you want to engineer? You know, what might it take? And his thought was that the first step in that process, if we wanted to look in that direction, would be to look at some kind of a large scale replacement plan for those wetlands. And he wasn't even quite sure what that might mean, but you know, I'm sure that if we were interested in pursuing something somewhere down the line, that's kind of the avenue that he thought would be the first thing to do. Although he did suggest that with the EDA's housing project, I mean, his belief is that 3rd Street, that old road bed in there constitutes somewhat of a dam to that whole area above that. And if you look at the maps, the wetland maps, you can see how that area behind 3rd is pretty much just backed up. As it moves below 3rd, the drainage has become more channelized, where there were culverts, and those culverts obviously for years have failed and just backed up, you know, water into that area and created wetlands. And you know, we've talked about the possibility of what would happen if we tried to divert that water and you know, not send it down
What if you
off
just
of
put,
7th. And
what if you just put stormwaters in like you do on every other city street? And then it wouldn't exist anymore. The issue is that you didn't start from the top, is that you're working up and everything up top is nowhere to go. If it started from 7, from 5th Avenue,
Yep.
or excuse me, 5th Street, and came down, if you did that in 1 block increments moving west off of 8th, right?
yes,
Then it was a complete system all the way through. By the time you got that next one done, that block would, I mean, it's still wetland, but if you got it delineated, you know, I mean, I don't know, you'd have to give it,
Give it some
because
time.
it's a systemic approach. You can't start on a slope such as our town sits with bedrock. I mean, of course, if you put a dam across the bottom, you're gonna just make wetland. But that's my point, is it's not wetland, it's not historical wetland, it's man-made, it's human-created wetland. And so you know, sure, there's probably pockets of, you know, stuff here and there, but it's not, I just don't, yeah, I don't know.
Tim, did you talk to David about man-made wetlands, if that's any different than natural wetlands?
Well, I mean, natural wetlands, you know, he felt that there might be some natural wetlands because that area does have a tendency to kind of flatten out somewhat. And with the flattening of the topography, that that area could have been a collection basin even before the Third Street dam was put in there. But how significant, I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, nobody's gone back in there and done any borings or excavated to see how deep the bedrock or what kind of soils are underneath the black muck that's sitting on the surface. But that black muck has been there because the water never drains out and everything organic turns to mush. So,
Which only holds more water, which just makes it more of a
yeah.
wetland. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah. Huh.
in furthering that conversation that you had brought up at the council meeting a while back,
That's good.
I just thought there seems to be an avenue if we want to pursue that, to move that discussion forward. That's
Cool.
Thanks for asking about it.
Yeah.
Active Living Steering Committee met last week, and one of the things that we had was a presentation from MnDOT on the US Bicycle Route 41, which is that route from St. Paul to Grand Portage. They've got a map they produced. They're holding some public meetings along the route from St. Paul, I think Pine City, Hinckley. They're not having one up here. That Active Living meeting was kind of their opportunity for public input. But also in regard to that, it was suggested that a letter of support from the city would be something that MnDOT would appreciate seeing, knowing that the route is going through the city and that we have an interest in what is being done. They're looking at this designation being completed. And you were there, Jay.
This year.
By
They wanted it-
I'm going to say October, November.
is what
Yeah.
she said, that she expected it to be done by November.
Yeah.
So I mean, with that said, I mean, having a letter of support for this road, I think, makes a lot of sense for us to do. Basically, just to say that we think it's a good idea. So, I guess with that said, I would make a motion to
really-
write a letter of support.
It's really, yeah, I was not involved at all with any public, I didn't make any comments on it. I saw
Mhm.
they were accepting it, but it is really interesting that it looks like in Grand Marais it goes, on the highway to Wisconsin Street to Broadway and up.
That's where the Gitchigami Trail officially runs.
The stripe on the street in Wisconsin is, yeah.
Oh no, I mean, paint aside, that's just a really interesting route
Yeah.
through Grand Marais. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, and one of the things there too that they did on the far end of Grand Marais is that you notice that right when it gets to basically the stoplight, it's red, it's not green, which means that it's on road. So they don't want people to cross over to the.
Say that again?
Oh.
You look at the map,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it turns
Green
red
is
right
on,
as,
green is on
on trail,
off-road trail.
Okay.
and then red
Red
is
is roll on.
basically like you're on the shoulder of the road.
Okay.
So that route puts them on the south side of the road from the stoplight out of town instead of the north side of the road, which is where the paved trail is, because they don't want people to have to cross twice. Which I think is an interesting thing that could perhaps be resolved with the Highway 61.
They also
Redesign.
call Wisconsin Street on road, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. So either way, it's trail on road or whatever. But I don't think that don't really need to talk about it too much. So unless you have real significant concerns about supporting it as it's made, but yeah, exactly. So I made a motion to write a letter of support. Does somebody want to second that or not?
I will second that.
Okay, so we have a second. Any further discussion?
Maybe it's, yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't been involved with it at all, but it just seems like a really difficult route, like to go down Wisconsin, hit Broadway. It's like not a, doesn't seem like a bicycle route. It seems like a high traffic congested area route.
Yeah, the 61's not a better.
Yet.
Right. And there's a lot more difficult spots on Route 41 than coming through.
Been there, than the Grand Marais.
Well, even like not going onto the Cascade Beach Road, you know, and riding on that narrow section of.
Oh, really?
It's
Is that-
just like sheer, you know, shudder when I see people riding.
Yeah,
down
it's
the
Well,
road.
and
That's
there's
part
been
of the
some
conversation.
suggestion that Cascade Beach Road might be somehow, people might be made aware that it's an alternative to riding on the highway.
So
But there's been some pushback from the residents of
Residents?
Cascade Beach Road about use of that road as a designated bikeway or, you know.
It worked out pretty good for the Rollins Creek Road people with the, having that road paved now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's part of the agreement to do the trail.
yeah.
Well, and this route is going to change, at least this map is going to change when there's more sections of the Gitchigami built. Those will change from a road portion to a trail portion.
I was wondering once, I mean, they're just trying to get something down and then it can be amended, or,
Yeah, I don't know how hard and fast this is,
Okay.
you know, when there's changes that are made that make it more appropriate to use a different
yeah.
location.
I would hope with the Highway 61 redesign that would be a more natural route than going down Wisconsin and up Broadway. It's,
Is there,
I'm sure it will be.
is there other bike routes, US bicycle routes in Minnesota?
Yeah, there's one other one.
The Mississippi River
Oh,
route.
Great River Road, I
Great
believe it's
River,
called.
yeah.
cool.
So this is the
And this
second
is like
one.
a national thing, obviously?
Yes.
where is the Great River, the River Road? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
It's called Great River Road. That
I don't know, does it start in Bemidji or?
starts by Itasca State Park, I think.
It's got old train rail
Okay.
for a lot of it. It's
Follows a
nice
lot of
path.
trails.
Yeah.
It follows a
That's
lot
a
of
lot.
trail.
Mhm.
Where does it go, do you know?
To Twin Cities, I think.
Yeah, all the
Oh,
way
okay.
down.
I mean, it goes beyond Minnesota.
Sure. Anton says New Orleans.
Is that where the road goes?
That'd be awesome.
That's what I hear.
I guess if you stay close to the river, you might.
I could check. I could check if we wanted to, but I don't think we need to. What else you got, Tim?
They should vote on that.
Well,
Oh yeah, we have to
Yeah.
vote. So there's a motion, there's a second for, thank you, getting sidetracked. Motion for second for a letter of support for the US Bike Route 41. Any closing comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, two other short, quick items. One, the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission, the application Cook County, for the Cook County Mountain Bike Trail System had been submitted with their, with the plan. It was scored as a high ranking, and it's been designated as part of the regional system. So both the Cook County Mountain Bike System and the Lake County Mountain Bike System have now been scored and been given a classification as a regionally designated park or trail. So the next opportunity for both those projects are that they now can submit for funding. I don't think that the Cook County system is going to be, the deadline is September 2nd, so the timeline to get that, an application for funding in this cycle is pretty quick. You know, there was no way the county and the bike club were prepared to move that quickly on doing that. Although I've heard conversations with Lake County that they are planning on submitting an application and, you know, hopeful to be on a funding cycle that would put them in construction, I think that puts them 2018. So,
And then is there, I mean, I suppose you can ask for any amount when you're doing that stuff, but, you know, if you think about what overall project costs is and, you know, cost per mile for single track, machine built single track, and is that, you know, there's only so many people that do it, right? You know, in
trail construction.
trail construction nationwide. I mean, so is that something that as we are looking at things that this is the city has to, like, you know,
those feelers should be going out to that community to try and, because I'm assuming as different IMBA sanctioned events and things are happening around the country and different, I'm sure this isn't just in Minnesota where these types of things are growing. If you have, one certain area that's all of a sudden going to have, they're building 50 miles, in a season. I mean, that's a lot, and that's not one crew. I mean, that takes multiple, and so I guess I don't know. I mean, I just wonder like how that, is
Well,
it,
Lake
is
County
it like
take care
that
of it.
most of the construction season? Do you have to like try and plan, 3 years out and make sure because if you get that money, didn't you say it has to be used in like a year, generally?
Yeah,
Or in a
and I'm
certain
assuming that
timeframe?
Lake County with an application will phase their development, and
Sure.
they're not gonna try to build 50 miles in 1 year,
Yeah.
that's.
They can learn how to do it, and then we'll just do what they did, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see what Lake County's application,
Yeah.
looks like, but I know that they're anxious to get going, and the county board has been, 100% behind this project, so
Cool.
they were a lot more, I think, prepared to submit an application for funding,
Yeah.
once they got their master plan submitted and they were scored.
So maybe we'll just learn from them.
Well, my guess is that in conversation with Jeff Cadwell today, that we'd probably be looking at an application next year.
So we can follow behind and.
So is
Yeah.
this Lake County that's heading that, or is there a bike?
No, Lake County is the, I mean, they're doing this, the county commissioners and their land commissioner's office is been the advocates.
They don't have a
I mean,
bike.
That's what I was
when they
wondering.
developed their comprehensive county comprehensive trail plan, they identified mountain biking as one of the opportunities, and the county board has invested a significant amount of resources and dedicated staff time to pursuing legacy designation, and right now, the system would be owned and operated by the county.
Yeah, I was just wondering, with that comprehensive trails plan, if there were other trails as well, like ATV trails and.
There are. I mean, the Prospector ATV Trail is one that they've talked about. Rhonda probably knows more about that than I do, but but I know that's on their priority list too, and they're also seeking Parks and Trails designation for that trail also.
Separately?
Separately, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And in conjunction with, I believe, St. Louis County, or I'm not sure the details on that.
Okay.
So, interesting stuff, though,
Yeah.
and it's very, very positive for all the discussion we've been having about parks and trails in the county. The county is in the process of hiring a trails or parks administrator position, and that I think is a result of the Parks and Trails plan. They see the need and the value to that.
Great.
Jeff seemed to think that position would be filled within 60 days, so
Yeah.
that's
Pretty cool.
encouraging.
But then they won't have a place to live. Or childcare.
We're working on it.
Okay, okay.
Okay, Dave.
Sorry to be.
Yeah.
You have one last thing?
One last thing, I had a call from elderly resident of, not that elderly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
Trouble.
We know she's watching.
Older than I am.
She's watching. Anyway, keep going.
About the lack of the driver's license renewal facility in the county, and the difficulty that poses to people to have to drive to either Two Harbors or some other more distant location. They were going to talk to the county too about this and see if there was some way to have a discussion about how to fill that gap somehow.
The state is in process.
Oh, okay. State is in process.
They've been in process now for 2 months. So that's a state deal, and they have
Yeah.
a state statute on that, which supposedly is supposed to go through the county. So, I know somebody told me anecdotally the other day that a local business here is already listed on their website as
That's the place.
the place. I haven't looked, but
That's just where Pokemons are.
There you go.
but yeah, that's this. The state is in process.
So something could be happening.
Oh, it is happening at their pace.
Well said.
Enough said.
Enough said.
All right, I'm done.
Maybe. So is that how you guys feel when I do my announcements?
Oh, it's worse.
Because I feel pretty good right
No,
now.
no, as soon as Tracy starts to talk, I'm gonna say, oh, wait a minute.
No, I don't do it that often. Come on.
I spoke myself. It was just about daycare. We didn't have a Y council meeting, but there was an email that there is an agreement between the Y and the Cooperation Station to use that space, which is a big deal because otherwise there's going to be even less childcare. So that was all. Sorry.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Tracy, what do you got?
I'm gonna get big brownie points. Nothing.
I thought you were going to say you made the meetings.
I had no meetings. I don't think
Okay.
we have until next month for the North Shore land management.
So, so Tim took care of a bunch of mine, so I don't have to go over those things. I still have quite a list though. So I went with Representative Aaron Murphy and Jim Boyd from the EDA and a couple of local community members and Amy Demmer of the Art Colony to discuss some of the future projects that could happen here in Grand Marais as far as developing the arts economy. There's a lot of energy around that still. It's pretty exciting. Next week they're actually going to have another meeting of this group of stakeholders to be getting together and talking about the arts economy and how they can continue to grow the arts economy. And I think that's something we all should stay very much in tune with. I think it's going to be really great. The folks that they have involved in that have a lot of energy, and they have a very, very strong commitment to seeing this happen, to seeing the arts community grow. So that's pretty much all that we talked about at that meeting.
Who's Representative Aaron Murphy?
She's one of our representatives to this national.
She's not one of, she's not ours.
Yeah.
She's not ours. Oh,
No.
That's why we
She's
talked to her. We
3B.
talked to her because she's
Hipping or something.
because she's she's on the Legacy Fund committee.
Arts,
Arts and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Amy has been in communication with Aaron Murphy,
Oh, I see.
and Aaron has actually come up here a couple of times to talk with us about how things are going. So it's very interesting. I think it's great that she's interested and that she comes up and listens to what we have to say. I had a really unexpected conversation at the Lioness's fish cake dinner regarding the park's cancellation policy. Actually, like people who have been staying in the park for a really long time, like many years, is what I'm saying, said that the park cancellation policy is way too weak and it needs to be stronger.
Week. What does that mean?
Weak as in there's no penalty for like blocking a whole bunch of sites for a really long time and then canceling them because you're not going to use them all. So then people who want to get reservations right off the bat can't get them because all the sites are blocked up, even though they get released, with a $15 penalty or something like that. So I haven't looked into the park's cancellation policy, so I don't know exactly how it works. But the way that they wrote it, it did sound kind of annoying.
What was
but
her
also,
point to it? Like she
the point
couldn't
was
get
that
in
the
when
point
she-
was that a lot of other
Okay.
campgrounds have it where if you reserve a campsite and then you cancel it, you're still on the hook for one night.
Sure, I just wondered what her inconvenience was. But so, like then she couldn't get in because
I
I think-
assume there was an incident.
I think it was something like that. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure, but
I'll
it
have
was.
Dave send the cancellation policy around so you can all look at it.
That's we can just look at it. Obviously, it's not.
It's the park
It's
board's
not-
I was gonna say
cancellation
that-
It's
policy.
the park board.
Just
Yeah.
for your information.
Yeah. So
yeah,
just
I mean they should
Yeah.
get done and maybe review it then. or whatever, have a
Maybe they
conversation
don't know,
about it.
maybe they don't think it's a.
Well,
Issue?
and I mean, looking at the numbers for the park, I don't, like, it's obviously not a problem. But it's something that, I don't know, so they talked to me about it, I figured to bring it up.
You'd kind of think you'd want something like a hotel, you have it up to a certain amount of time, and then if you cancel out, then you're still on the hook. You know, you can't last
think-
minute.
I think that there is something like that, but I don't think that the penalty is very big. So, anyway. So starting with the tennis association thing, so we got the tennis courts opened up. That was great. They had a great fish pick tournament, and then I got a phone call right after that, and from Rob Wannabu, and when he called me, I was like, well, I thought aren't we good? Are we good here? And he said, yeah, we are good here, but that sign that's right there on the corner there has completely wrong information about the tennis association, and he said that he would get me some information about how it, like what it needs to say. So like the information on the sign that's at the corner here is outdated for the tennis association.
Whose sign is that?
Yeah.
That's our sign.
No.
It's
I
not?
don't believe
Whose
it
sign
is.
is that?
That's the Chamber
Chambers?
of Commerce's sign, although I doubt they know that anymore, because it's been a long time.
'Cause I thought they sold those
So then I'll-
spaces on there to whoever.
It looks like it's been nobody's sign for a little bit,
I'll send that information to Jim Boyd then.
yeah.
Great. See, that's why I bring stuff up, because then we figure out how to deal with it.
Pass the
Probably
buck.
done that with an email.
Well, sometimes. Probably could. Anyway, next year is going to be North House Folk School's 20th anniversary. They're looking at some way that they can work with the city on a major project or a project of some sort.
Just a music festival.
How about something that starts with a B?
Yeah.
Math. They
You are
actually,
so
they
quiet.
actually were interested in potentially exploring someplace on their complex to put
Campus.
public bathrooms, their campus to put public bathrooms.
I
So
didn't
that's
mean- I
that's
didn't
good.
mean physical location, I meant
Timber frame bathrooms.
yes, or some
Oh.
nature.
Well,
like
one of the
bathroom
ideas
building class.
one of the ideas that was floated was the potential of building some kind of a community sauna down in the rec park. And,
Okay, back to bathrooms.
and that's I'm just floating it out there. So
If you
it's
build a
20.
sauna, you gotta have bathrooms.
It's true.
There you
It's
go.
true. So at any rate, that was one of the suggested things. I suggested bathrooms. They thought that might sound pretty good too. So that's something we can keep in the back of our mind. That next year is going to be the 20th anniversary of North House. They're looking for some way to work with the city on a project. So thoughts.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. There's a guy named Wayne Potratz. I talked about this before. He wants to donate to the city a sculpture of a cast iron canoe and a couple of paddles. It's
he already
it's
owns?
this. He makes it. He made it.
Oh,
So he wants to donate this to the city.
What size is it?
It's 7 feet long, and it's got like a Duluth pack and a couple paddles and stuff like that, all one piece, very stable, very heavy. And he proposed 3 sites that it could potentially go in over at Boulder Park. I thought that sounded like a pretty darn cool idea. I don't know how we move forward with something like this. I do think that this is another situation where, you know, the formation of an arts commission would be sure would be great.
I thought we were going to do that.
Well, I think we are going to do that, but I think that we were going to wait until after the comprehensive planning to do that. But I mean,
You know, it seemed to me that, you know, something like this, you know, could be a real attraction, you know, and, you know, with the work we're gonna do on Highway 61 and some of the public spaces that we're gonna create on that, it might be an ideal location somewhere in that, to be incorporated into that project too, but, you know, that's a ways away, and is there an interim location, or?
well, I think that's kind of what we're talking about, is that he wants to donate this piece to Grand Marais. And he identified that site because it was the only real workable site. I have a feeling that he would not mind it being moved. So basically what he's saying,
Voyager out there with a canoe might,
well, that would be a private thing. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if he donates it, you can put it where you want
Right.
and
Yeah.
move it where you want. And since it's taken us longer than, I mean, we're not gonna get our act together in terms of having a group of people help us pick a location, maybe you should just accept it now. And then we'll work on with the park board or something, figuring out how to put it in Boulder Park. And then we can, as an art commission develops,
I'm gonna
talk
make a
about
motion
permanent
to,
locations.
make a motion to accept his donation of a cast iron canoe.
Rhonda.
Oh,
I don't, well, I'm not supposed to talk, but the park is the Walt Letizia. Well, you know, it is Boulder Park, courtesy of the Letizia family. And I'll bet you they would be fine with this, but they'd probably be better with it if someone talked to them before it just.
I think that, I remember from being on the park board, this is not the first time people have offered this kind of thing, and you do kind of have to think about it big picture, because then other things come along and you don't have a criteria for what you find acceptable and not.
Yeah.
Which is
Beyond-
why the whole art commission thing, I think, is so incredibly important.
Yeah, we need to have a criteria of how you accept this and how much and where it goes. And like Mike just said, good point. You know, it's gifted. Well, then it's gifted. It can't be gifted with conditions of I will
Well,
only
that
give
would
it to you if
They can
it's
suggest
here.
that, but he didn't, so.
Right. I mean, but to say whatever it is, I'll only give it to you if you'll put it here, wouldn't probably be a good. It's not so much in these decisions what we're looking at right this moment. It's having criteria for the next time it pops up.
but Mr. Mayor, I made a motion.
You did make a motion. We're getting back to that. Is there a second for said motion to accept the sculpture
I'll
from?
second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept sculpture from Wayne Potratz. Any discussion? I think that what you're saying is it makes a ton of sense. We need to make some kind of guidelines for this kind of an offer. And I also think that what Rhonda said makes a ton of sense. Before we find a specific place for this, we need to make sure that we're in line with all of the commitments that we've made to the spaces that we've got, so that we don't overstep anything. So,
Plus, you know, in a lot of this public space, it is public open spaces, play space, whatever, and if it starts to fill with things, and if, this is the mom side of me here, but, you know, you run a bigger risk of something happening to it.
yeah.
And then those places become spaces where you're more concerned about things happening than people being able to just be out there and enjoy the space.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun to climb on things.
See?
Well,
Yes,
it's
it
not like
is.
it's like the giant chicken down in Two Harbors that keeps like
The
every
anchors in
couple of
Camouflage,
years.
you know? There's-
Yeah. Well, this guy, he said that he would come up and would figure out a way to anchor it into the ground with the city. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Super duper. Just two more things. So I went and checked out the new rain garden by the library. It's looking really good. Lots of great native plants in there that are starting to take root, and a bunch of them are flowering already. It looks very nice. I talked with the soil and water folks about stormwater and about that project and other projects that we could continue to do. And they said that that there is a potential for, I think it was like up to $50,000 of matching money from the state to work on stormwater. But since they're with the county, then the money would have to come through the county or something like that. So I asked her, like, well, is there any way that like the city could put some money into that and like encourage the county to go for this extra money so that we could use it to better our stormwater situation? They said that they don't know. So I'll look a little bit more into that. But stormwater is a major problem that we have. You know, we live on a hill. And if we can start chipping away at that little bit by little bit, and then also create a comprehensive plan for how we're going to deal with it citywide, then that seems like that's going to get us a long way. So that's all about that. So we're making baby steps forward on stormwater, but there are potentially resources out there that could help us move it faster. And then the last thing that I have is just a question to check in on the conversation about Creechville, like the Creechville Road, and if we've
It's,
ironed anything else
they
out.
put gravel down, it looks really nice, but I think the culvert's still clogged, and, it's just gonna happen again, I think, but
Maybe even tonight.
it might happen
Perhaps
tonight.
even now in a half an hour.
Yeah.
No, nothing's happens in the last 2 weeks on that.
Okay. We should probably
I,
figure out how to have that conversation.
and I was curious, I'm sorry about the,
Touche.
might be in yellow here. 4th Avenue West reconstruction, is that
Sorry.
south of the Gunfoot Trail, or is that further south of the courthouse, or there's the whole thing, or what's?
I mean, it's not,
It's just-
yeah. The worst block of it is actually below 7, because there's water, sewer, curbs, storm sewer, the whole works.
Right.
The part that we've talked most about recently is above the Gunflint Trail, and the one that's been, say, had the most conversation in the past 5 years is next to the community center.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what is it? Any and all of that.
Oh, okay. Has there been any more conversation with the county, or?
No, county has not offered us any conversation about that at all.
Oh, and I've had a bunch of people talk to me about public restrooms.
And what about the
Oh.
and then at Boulder Park, to tie in with Boulder Park, and then with the roads that are washing away, the giant, like at the parking area, the big hole there.
The big puddle there, yeah. People have mentioned that to me as well.
I
So-
don't
Oh,
know
just the
if
little
we're-
intern parking, where you just pull into park, you mean? Okay.
What would it take to? Never mind.
Thorson's plant is going.
Well,
Is that
I was
where you're
just
going?
thinking if we're doing blacktop with it,
So, I actually,
I mean,
about the
that's-
public,
that would be a pretty easy little spot to hit, and then we don't have to, it's parking, right?
Yeah.
Is
Well,
there any
we could talk about that.
restrictions to what we put down there on that surface?
Well, other than Rhonda's point, no, we've talked to the land trust about it. It is part of the land trust, but they've recognized after we demonstrated it to them that it's been historically parking. So, I don't think there's any reason we couldn't make some more improvements to it.
interesting.
I mean, I don't know what that, I have no idea what that means, like how much that costs, like what the square footage is on that parking lot there, but it just seems like it's always full in the summertime,
Of course.
and it's full of cars, and then also water.
How would you go ahead about doing that?
Just talk to a contractor.
Talk to a contractor? Okay.
Good.
So, I totally just did it, Tim. I tried not to do it, but I totally just did it. Like I went back to something, like he was saying. So the public restrooms thing, I've been having lots of conversations about the public restrooms. And an idea came about a potential solution that we could do for this. Just throwing this out, this is not like vetted in any way, shape, or form. But if we know that we're gonna have to build bathrooms and it's gonna cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this potentially, why don't we make a city program that encourages the downtown business folks to improve their own bathrooms in their own facilities so that they can be labeled public bathrooms? And then as long as they post a public bathroom sign, then we give them a break on their water bill or something like that in exchange for it. I mean, is that something that is even feasible in any way, shape, or form? Because
What did the
then,
businesses say?
I don't know, that depends on what the businesses say.
Right.
I have no idea.
That'd probably be.
But if, I mean, in my mind, if they're getting a good deal on their water, and that's their major concern for the expense of having people come in, then more people are going through their businesses and all that stuff.
No, I don't think that is a major concern. Okay, hours.
Well, I know that that's a
hours of
concern because,
Hours of operation. Do you want that foot traffic through? Just because someone comes in to use your bathroom is not a benefit to the operation of your business, nor do you want to be cleaning them and maintaining them. I can tell you that's not a lot of fun, and they get a lot of, it's about as exciting as for the hotel rooms here. There's a lot of fun to ask my employees to unplug a bathroom during the day. There's a lot of fun for my employees when they have to deal with one that's gone over. I'm not so sure a lot of the businesses
What do you mean
around
gone
here
over?
want that as
Overflow.
part of their offerings.
Well-
I mean, you're right, we have to ask them, but I'm not so sure that's an asset for a gallery or a gift shop necessarily.
We already have public bathrooms and, we're doing all that already. And if we had the opportunity to get a discount on our water bill, would we jump at it? We might.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already in that boat, but
it's-
that'd be the first things I'd start asking people.
I mean, some businesses are not set up
Mhm.
to have a public bathroom, but if they were going to change or modify their business in some fashion, maybe they'd consider that if that was one of the considerations.
Well, when I thought of this, it mainly just came down to how can we actually incentivize this for businesses to be providing it in their current locations, and is that a benefit to them, in some way, shape, or form? And I don't know the answer. I mean, obviously there are detractions to this, but I mean, if we're going to be looking for a solution to the restroom situation, then I think that we got to lay everything out there and then
Mhm.
slowly pick off the low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
And to me, that sounds like that could be low-hanging fruit if businesses are willing to do it.
But
Well, I think there would be some that would be, and others would choose not to. And I think that until you asked, and you really wouldn't know who would be willing to
Right.
participate.
by its very nature, it spreads it out, it spreads out to different locations, and so that takes away the question of like, well, where do we put the one bathroom we're gonna invest money in, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Spreads that out, which is positive. It also spreads out, if 6 businesses participate, well, there's 6 businesses, it spreads that, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's an interesting thought.
I mean, I can tell you that we get hundreds of users and if it was labeled a public bathroom, I don't think it would change one bit,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already allowing that.
Yeah.
I think that when you got the mobile app that said where are the public restrooms in Grand Marais, and then you had all those, that'd be interesting.
Mhm.
And put Pokemons in that bathroom?
Isn't that it's like privacy infringement or something? So anyway, that's all I have.
But that's a good start of
Just
another
trying
possibility.
to
Yeah.
think outside the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
does anybody else have anything?
Well, I was curious about, again, the 4th Avenue West, though, below the Gunther Trail. Like, so the county hasn't offered anything. I thought the last I had heard, it was unclear who is responsible for that road.
That's what I said, and
Okay.
that is
Still
the
unclear.
bulk of the message that I sent to Jeff asking for a conversation.
Oh, okay. I just haven't heard back.
And then I followed up and talked to him about it.
Okay.
And no, I have not heard back.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. Do we have anything else?
Any updates on where we are with the comprehensive planning work?
Just
Anything
one.
from those guys?
And I've got a meeting scheduled to talk to them on Friday to go over their draft public engagement plan. But the update is that, if you'll remember Kelsey, who was one of the people that was here part of the interview, she's accepted a job with the city of Minneapolis.
Ah,
So that won't affect anything, is what I've been told.
Of course.
Mhm.
She must have been really valuable to the project.
Well, she was certainly the one that was the point person on this beginning stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Anything else?
Who's coming to the PUC meeting next week?
There.
I'm not here.
Can you
Good
tell?
job.
I would love to
Yeah.
know, but
I
can't
sent
be
you an
here.
email.
Okay.
Yeah.
What day, what was the date again?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Do you
What
s-
day is the
Did you send an
RRRB?
email?
Yep.
Yeah.
The,
Is that Tuesday?
RRB
the only
is,
reason you would come,
Peterson.
other than just interest in the issues that the PUC is talking about, is because you'll be asked to take action on amendments to our contract with SIMPA, and representatives from SIMPA will be there. I think it would take an inordinate amount of time to get you up to speed on
Thursday.
all of that to your satisfaction, and so I'm not even gonna recommend that you try. Rather let the PUC kind of deal with it at that level. But you have
Oh,
to take
there it
action
is.
on it because the city and the PUC are separately signatories on that contract. So if you're curious and you want to learn more, there's your opportunity. And if somebody raises their hand, then we'll post it.
Can you post it just in case?
Yep.
Yeah, you should. I
Okay.
think. I'm
We will.
curious, but
Yep.
but
So-
the reasons you said,
If it's raining, I'll be.
When is it?
3 o'clock next Wednesday.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that in here. Okay.
The conversation about solar, I think George is
Oh, there it is at the head.
been going
Sorry.
to simple meetings and talking with them about community solar, and they're gonna come and explain some of their protocols, and give us a little bit more information about their initiatives, so.
George suggested I reserve the room until 6.
Till 6?
From 3?
Yep, that's all I got.
Okay. We are adjourned. I need to get out.
Have a good evening.
Thanks,
Thanks, Chris.